Janet Nunn is a local artist. She's a local watercolor artist, and she is also a watercolor instructor, and she has been teaching classes at Foothills for 20 years this year. And we are going to celebrate her with an exhibit called Flowstate.
I would say that the Foothills Art Center is just a wonderful place to go and learn. And one of the things I teach is watercolor. My background is my grandmother was an art teacher, so I've always done art. And my husband and I owned a business. We retired from it, and I needed stuff to do. So 20 years ago, I went to the Foothills Art Center and said, you know, I've been teaching some classes. I'd love to teach here because you guys have a lot of watercolorists, and I think it would be a lot of fun. And that's how I started my journey with Foothills. And there's been people in and out of Foothills, but the cool part about it is the people that take the classes, they just keep coming out of the woodwork.
Janet and Foothills believe it's about the learning process, not necessarily just the end product. And I mean, we're 52 and she's been here 20 years of that, and we're still celebrating artists and community. I hope we can continue to do that.
Some of them have been with me through the whole time. Some have come in and out, but they always know that when they come to class that they're going to learn something, and they're going to learn something that they haven't learned in any other class. And it's going to be fun because the people in the class are in the same boat. And it's kind of like going to kindergarten. We all share. Everybody shares in class. The supplies are mainly kitchen tools, stuff when I'm cooking. This is just so fun. So you make a brush out of wax paper. You dip it in the paint and you swoosh.
It's constantly new. What's incredible to me with her classes is I have probably seen hundreds of her lessons in just 5 years. She has not repeated one. I have no idea how she hasn't done that. Janet Nunn is fun.
Painting what we have in Colorado, trees and landscape. And I love pushing the paint on the mountains. This is not what the mountains really look like, but when I push the paint, it gives you the feeling of, wow, I really love the way the sun is hitting the mountains and what it does to the snow. All it takes is a little guidance, and I think that's why I've had people so long that have been coming in and out of class, because they want to learn something and they want to get excited about painting in watercolors.
That was F4D, right? Made that
Yeah.
one? Yeah, they're the best. That was really fantastic. F4D's local video shop. They do all kinds of video and movie production, and they made our documentary for Wall of Hope. They've done a general Foothills promotional video. They've done all these things for us in kind, and they're just fantastic. Gabe Rodvik is in charge over there, and he's just excellent. He's also in the member show, perennial admittee into the member show with his photography. So he's just tremendous. So I won't.
Who are you? Who are you?
Oh, who am I? Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna officially start and now do the introduction. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Eric Hockley. I'm the curator here at Foothills Art Center, and I want to welcome you all to our opening live stream for Flowstate, 20 Years with Janet Nunn, an exhibition that is honoring Janet's prolific career with Foothills Art Center and all that she's given us. We've also attached to this show a new program called Young Curators, which is allowed for an internship of 3 local high school students to work directly with me and Maura, our curator of education, to learn the ins and outs of installing a show. And they get to kind of play both sides of the ball. They get to both create work for the show and curate the selection of works from the chosen artist. Also, we had a juried component to the show this year, which had some entries, and then we selected some work from that to kind of make this patchwork assemblage of an exhibition that allows us to showcase Janet Nunn and like all her various roles as a juror, as an educator, as a mentor, and as an artist in and of herself who is quite prolific. So I want to welcome everybody here from AARP. I know a lot of folks got referred to us through them in our partnership, and I want to thank you guys for your support and thank you for being here. I also want to thank the Golden Civics Foundation for their support for the Young Curators program specifically. I think that it has been a really fruitful experience with a lot of great moments and a lot of great learning opportunities, and I'm just really impressed with both of them. We have 2 of our 3 young curators with us now. I'd like to introduce them. You guys can take yourselves off mute. Kayla Wong and Kutad Duzgun here tonight with us, and our third, Riva Jojo Pennington, is going to be joining us at around 7:30. So I would like to start tonight with just a little bit of oh, actually, can we just share some photos of the installation? I think that would be a great place to start, actually, just to give you guys a little bit of a teaser of what the show looks like. If you haven't been able to come in yet, or if you don't live close enough, at least you can get an idea of the installation. I'll talk a little bit about what the Young Curators actually contributed to the show. And Katad and Kayla, you guys feel free to jump in at any time. Anna, do you have those, or do you want me to share? All right. So we're just gonna got a little slideshow here of our installation. So one of the first things that we had to do was, from Janet's massive collection of work, the students had to select what it was that they were going to have installed and in what room everything was going to be in. So here we have a little installation of raw work that was from workshops created in classes with Janet. Katad and Kayla, can you speak to the difficulty of hanging this wall and what this was like for you guys to lay out work in kind of this salon style?
Yeah, I guess because all of the works had different sizes of the paper, it was really hard to initially, I guess, envision what, I guess, how we would position each, painting. But yeah, we figured it out, and I think it looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also like to add that some of the paintings were kind of uneven, so we had to flatten them out.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
downside of not having them framed, but it
Yeah,
kind of
and
gave us this raw look.
Yes, but you guys figured it out.
Yep.
Books help a lot. If you have a painting that curls up, if you just stack a book on top of it, it flattens out pretty good. Is that what you guys did? I hope.
Yeah, we did. We were going to use an iron, but I thought better of it.
The books are safer than the
Books
iron.
are safer. So in this room, you guys elected to use 2 rooms for the jury component of the show. I think you selected around 19 works, and this is the first room. What can you guys tell me about? I know we had one of my favorite moments from working with the 3 of you was the night we received all the work, and then it was like late on a Friday, because that was these guys are so overprogrammed. It was always late on a Friday that we were able to meet with them. Late on a Friday, trying to lay out all the pieces of the show in these 2 rooms. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we started with the juried work,
Yep.
which is this room, and for this room specifically, it kind of, so Janet's work first, I guess, gallery, and then our work, and the Janet students' work, the second room, and then this room, the viewers enter this room after that, and we wanted to have this, I guess, eye catcher that would draw the viewer into the room. So we positioned that I guess warm and attracting painting in the middle, so that the viewer would be invited into the gallery. And when we move along the gallery, we kind of had this balance, warm colors, and then you get some cold colors, and then warm again, so that the paintings wouldn't compete so much, but they would still complement each other.
yeah,
Go ahead, Kayla.
we were having kind of a hard time with like the paintings to the left and right of it. Not the turtle and the mermaid, but the ones next to those. But then we figured it out, and we decided to put these paintings here because they have like the same like warm color and orange that kind of fits with the painting in the middle.
Yeah, I always describe it to people like if you have blue eyes and then you wear a blue shirt and how that can cause your eyes to pop. So it can be nice to grab the colors that you think are very prominent or strong in a given work and then accompany that work with paintings that have similar shades or similar colors in that spectrum near them, and then they can all kind of bolster one another to pull out. So in this instance, it's this orange being pulled out of all three. So we worked for like a good hour, an hour and a half, just on these 20 pieces, rearranging them around, trying to kind of solve the puzzle of where the best location was for each work. Because just the way that you can have these three pieces in this instance all helping support each other, pulling out that orange, you can have works absolutely overwhelm one another if you don't get it quite right. So that was something that we were playing with, and I was pointing out like certain paintings will just they're inevitably is going to be like the problem child painting that you can't seem to get to play nice with anything else. So you have to find its own eye line or its own wall so that it can get its own view. But yeah, this wall was particularly important because, right, as Katad was saying, you get a really long eye line looking at this room all the way back from the very entry, from the entrance to the show. It's probably a good 70 feet or so. So this pulls you into the space and kind of surrounds you in this round room. Anna, could you do you have pictures of the last room at all? The next one? Yeah, this is a
It's a
tighter,
single small one. Yeah.
yeah, a tighter view of the last room. So we're just giving you guys a teaser. We hope that you come see the show in real life. But we can also take a look at do you have a picture of Katad's installation? Maybe we could have him talk about that work a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess I've always loved 3D art, sculpture and installation. But I've used some acrylic when I did painted my sculptures, I guess. But I've never used Watermedia, so I kind of wanted that challenge, and I was inspired by Janet because her, I guess, use of watercolor in such a free form, and this liberal and I guess beautiful way kind of inspired me, and I wanted to, I guess, create this installation. It's basically it's a dinner table, and there are two people. I guess on the one side there's this blue person, and the other there's the red person, and the watercolor, I guess, manifests itself through the touches when you touch the, I guess, dinnerware on the table. And I just felt that watercolor was the perfect medium because it just showed that there was a soul. There's this translucent aspect to the soul of the two people sitting at the dinner table.
Kayla, if you want to talk about your painting a little bit, you can feel free.
Okay, so mine is a person in a room with like a bunch of monitors and TVs, and this one TV is kind of like sucking the person's soul out, because this is what I kind of feel right now with like online school, and as if it's like digital life is just like inescapable. So yeah, I was just painting what I felt at that time.
Yeah, I think we can all commiserate with that sensation. I think this was a particularly challenging idea. Kayla's goal was to try and have the monitors and the displays piled up here be the only source of light in the room. So it made for a tricky rendering in terms of selecting her light source and the casting of this kind of blue hue on everything. I think she did a really good job. And I obviously encourage you to come see the painting in real life. So at this point, I'd like to give it over to Kayla and Katad and let you guys talk to Janet a little bit. And I'd like to give Janet the floor to talk to her maybe a little bit about how she got started at Foothills Art Center. And maybe she's always filled with tremendous stories. I'd love to hear something about your early days at Foothills and how it began. Because as I'm the senior staff member at Foothills, but my 8 years pales in comparison. So you're from an era in which I didn't even, I was but a twinkle in the eye of Foothills at the moment. So
I must have started when I was, right out of high school, maybe. I don't know. No. But when I first came to Foothills, life was a lot different than what it is now. And there was a show. They usually had this huge Watermedia show, and it was awesome. And people came from miles over and to enter it, and it was just really a big thing. And then they had a pottery show and a few other shows. But what I was thinking about back then is we also had lots and lots of classes. So there was a class, I would be waiting for someone to be coming in, and I'd be going out, and all different types of classes. But the thing about what Foothills is doing now as compared to what was happening before is back then Foothills was in the building. That was it. We were all encompassed in this building. And now, I mean, you have lots of what do I want to say? Things that are going on outside of the building, as my phone is ringing, sorry. As you go out into the city of Golden, you look at boxes that have utility boxes. They're covered in wonderful art through some of the people at Foothills. You see some of the murals. In fact, they have a great call for entry. If you're a mural painter, to put some more artwork around Golden. And
well, we'll talk more about that later. There, yeah, help me remember to mention that at the end. There's big money up for a mural artist right now, and a really enormous opportunity. If any
big
of you guys,
money.
of you guys are mural artists.
Yes, or become a mural artist pretty soon. And then the Astor House that they're going to be doing. The other thing is back then Foothills did not have art week, or in July there is a great show that they have where they have a whole bunch of outdoor artists. Then there's something art wise going the whole week. And Maura, you need to tell us, or Eric, you need to make sure that you have the dates for that. But I guess to come around is, before we were just in this little box, and now it seems that art is everywhere in Golden, and the Foothills Art Center is somehow behind a lot of the art that you see in Golden. And I think that that is a really nice progression for the Foothills Art Center. So how's that, Eric? Does that answer?
That was huge for Foothills. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, we do everything that we can to try and get outside of the building and try and do programs like the Young Curators. I don't know if any of you guys were in our telethon stream, but we did get to do an interview with Kutad and Kayla and Jojo in that stream to talk about their experiences with the Young Curators program. But maybe I'll rehash that a little bit just to let them get a chance to talk. Kutad and Kayla, you want to tell me a little bit about your experience with the Young Curators program overall, and maybe what was the most challenging moments for you in the whole thing, or what was your favorite part of it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this experience. It gave me like a great insight of what you could do with art in a real world situation. And I thought that the people that I worked with were really amazing, and there was a really nice and accepting kind environment. I think that my favorite part was probably working with the people, or setting up the whole show, because it's always nice to see your plan come to real life. And then the most challenging part was being able to fit this into my schedule, because I haven't really done very many things like this before. So I had to be accountable for when to come to the Foothills Art Center and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Kayla, I think it was a great experience. And, we just learned so many stuff. I mean, we made art, we learned from Janet, we curated a show, and, we even juried. So that was really, really fulfilling. And we even incorporated some art theory conversations while we juried. And it's just so much learning that we could use our knowledge that we got from our art classes to incorporate to real life when we curate, when we jury, when we make art. And I think one of the difficulties was to, I guess, make better art for the show, because Janet is a famous artist, and you, I guess, want to do better, make better, because the standards are so high, and everyone is everyone is a great artist. But yeah, I mean, everyone was so supportive, that we just loved every aspect of it, even if it was a lot of concentration, discussion, and everything.
Yeah, I think we did something uniquely cruel to the three of you by having you jury a whole, cavalcade of professional and high level artists and have to make selections from amongst them to be in the show, and then say, okay, now that you've made all these uncomfortable judgments and difficult decisions, create artwork of your own to hang right nearby. Like, that was, we certainly put, I think, a lot of pressure on your shoulders in that moment. Oh, hi. Riva Jojo Pennington has just signed in. I'd like to introduce everybody to her, our third 3 of 3 young curator. She is taking a moment away from a very important volleyball game to be with us here tonight. So I think we're all very appreciative that she can, again, talking about some very seriously over-programmed schedules. So Jojo, thanks for being here. Would you like to take a moment just to introduce yourself? Maybe tell us your favorite or most challenging part of being a young curator.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Riva, or Jojo. I'm a junior at Lakewood High School. This whole experience has been super fun and super cool to be a part of. And I'd say the most challenging part of it has been denying, just like you were saying, like the hard conversations with people about not taking their art into when jurying. And it's just like hard when it comes to why, and just like giving them feedback was one of our hardest pieces to accomplish.
Yeah, I wasn't shy about, so a lot of times we get the emails back after you decline somebody from being in a show, and you need to put your money where your mouth is, essentially, and say, okay, I selected this work over yours, and I like to always offer feedback, albeit subjective, to people who don't get into shows. And that is some of the hardest, those are the hardest emails and the hardest times to articulate to someone. Not only, you can't dump on them. You can't go to them and say like, oh, well, these are my least favorite parts, and, maybe you could do better. You have to give them real reasonable criticism and real direction to move forward. And that's difficult for me. And I've been looking and talking about art for many years. So I made sure to give Todd, Kayla, and Riva the opportunity to do that. And I think they did really well. They were able to really articulate their ideas well. And off of that note, I'd like to give you guys each the opportunity to talk about you each chose a piece from the show that you found particularly interesting you'd like to talk about. So I'm going to maybe we'll start with Riva here. So you can get back to your game. Is it, you guys can, so yeah, tell us a little bit, tell us why this work struck you so. And again, this is from Edward Russell, and we have this hanging up. This is one of our juried pieces, and yeah, tell us why you chose this piece and what you want to talk about. I'll kind of help you along.
So something personally about me, which is definitely the reason why I love this piece so much, is when I was little, I would always wear the same colors and have a monochrome outfit. And this piece, I liked it so much because it definitely reminded me of that. And like, regardless of the fact that I wore monochrome outfits when I was a little girl, I'm saying like, it's really cool and talented to see how much value you can get from maybe 2 or 3 colors, and how much variation that you can get from just using a few things. Something that I didn't know when we were during the piece, is how it was framed. But when it did come in, I thought it was really cool. It's very uniquely framed. It has like a double wooden frame, and it does not have glass in front of it. And it's topped with like a type of resin, I think.
Yeah, yeah, like an epoxy.
Yeah, and it's very, very unique and very cool. And I thought that it was just a good piece. And then it's also a fairly small piece, and it just has so much detail for how small the actual piece is.
Yeah, this is one of those works that we gave it its own eyeline, right? We didn't have this share an eyeline with any other piece in the show.
Yeah,
It was one of those problem children pieces are not bad works. They just need to stand on their own sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I've been seeing that acrylic or that resin pour or that epoxy pour more and more, and I think that it really gives the work like an amazing gloss. And that was something that was surprising, right? Because it doesn't come across as well in the photograph, probably because you didn't want to get like a glare. So I don't know if the photograph was taken before pouring that or not, but that was really nice to see in real life. I think the figure is so well rendered. I think it's really amazing when people can stylize their figures so much to get like a lot of motion and a lot of emotion out of a work to make it really evocative, but not mess up things like perspective or the relative size of, the actual anatomy of a figure. I think that always really impresses me. Jojo, do you have anything more you'd like to add before we'll give Kayla a chance to talk about her favorite work?
I think that was it. I just think it's really unique and really well done, and you can definitely see the talent from just how well it's made.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. I hope to meet Edward in real life if he's a local, and maybe we'll get to learn a little bit more about this piece. But thank you guys, and I'm gonna go on to Kayla's favorite work now. Let's see if I can just close this. That probably stopped the share. And oh, this one was much discussed in jurying. Kayla, you there?
Yeah, I am.
All right. We talked about this one probably longer than we talked about any piece in jurying, and it almost didn't make it in.
Yeah.
What was, you chose this as your favorite piece, what were we struggling? Can you articulate why we were struggling with this work when we were looking at it jurying?
I think the reason why we were struggling a little bit was because like the stools and the objects on the ground were kind of floating a little bit. And then there was a bunch of different light sources from different like angles and directions and stuff. So there were just some details that made it seem a little off. But after like we discussed it and stuff, I realized that those details were the reasons why I like this piece because it was really unique and it stood out of all the other paintings. So, and then when I first looked at it, I felt comfort but also anxiousness at the same time. So it was really interesting. I also really like the color choices and the control of the piece. Um, and I like how the stools and then the floor has a texture, so it looks like it's real life.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't mention the title or the artist here. This work is called Flight Fantasy 6 by Darcy Scott. Yeah. So Kayla's talking about the objects in the room floating. We were struggling with the perspective of the room and the kind of surreal nature of seeing so much of the floor sweeping towards us, and then the like elongated shadows coming from the window, and then the wire hanging light bulb, right? Couldn't quite place it in the space, and how there's this foreshortening going on in the room with the crutch and all of the items kind of pushing towards the back of the room. And I think as the more and more we looked at it, we started to really fall in love with the surreal nature of the work. And that was, for me, I've seen works from this artist a number of times. And throughout the jury process, I really tried to stay hands off and let the young curators guide the way. But I encouraged them to feel out and talk through what they were struggling with this work. And the more we talked about it, the more they were able to kind of come around on what it was they were feeling. And it transformed from like a mild discomfort to a real appreciation for what the artwork was doing for them. So yeah, I think that was well articulated, Kayla, and I really did enjoy talking to you guys about this work when we were in the jurying. And then it's also quite large, which is something it's always difficult to scale up in your brain what a work is going to look like in real life when you're looking at it on a computer screen. And it's something that will always be sadly underappreciated when you're trying to jury works digitally. And it's not, it's the way of the future, but also falls short in some ways. So Kayla, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, Todd, let's go on to your work here.
Yeah, so the reason why I like this piece is just so I wanted some sort of emotion when I see a piece. I want to feel something. And I think this piece kind of gives me that emotion, that warmth, that even amorous affection in a way. And it kind of the colors are muted when in this picture. It's actually more saturated and more neon and I guess more pinkish hue. And I think it's unique in the sense that they use this high saturated colors and neon colors, which I thought would be especially a good addition to the whole Watermedia exhibition. Yeah, and I just love the abstract expressionism that they use. Yeah.
Riva, you're free to go.
Okay, my mom is monitoring score for me and they're like at game point,
Go
so.
get it. Get back in there.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you for taking the time. Katad, sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was about to be done. Yeah, so I guess the warmth that they use, the positive feelings that it so beautifully conveys, I guess, lured me in. Yeah.
Yeah, so this work is called Magic Lanterns by Lynn Albright, another artist I'm very familiar with. She's been around Foothills for a long time. Yeah, looking back, we don't have a heck of a lot of abstract in the show, right? There's maybe a handful, and I always really, I apologize for anybody who hears me talk about art, but I say this all the time. I always really appreciate abstracts that still work with form and still give you something to look at. I'm less of a fan of the all over painting style, and I like when there's something drawing your eye to it that can create dimension within an abstract. And I think the use of the cylinder, here is particularly important in that it gives you something to look at, and it gives your place an eye. It gives your an eye a foreground and a background. So that is really good. Yeah, I think Jill and John posting in the chat there. Janet, do you think you want to pull? Could we have you talk about a work in the show? Do you have one in your memory that I could pull up for you that we could bring up?
I gave the young curators about, oh gosh, I gave you guys quite a few pieces to choose from. I think we had 18 pieces and they got it down to 9. And there is a lot of different ones. First of all, I do like flowers. I'm a gardener, so yes, I like flowers. And the one straight ahead is a Rose of Sharon that's at the Mother Cabrini Shrine. And when I went there, everything was brown. It was September. Nothing was really pretty. And all of a sudden you come around the corner and there's this beautiful Rose of Sharon tree bush. And I just couldn't believe how gorgeous it was. And I wanted to recreate that wonderful sense of color in kind of a stark area where things are so dry, but yet this, was so in bloom. And I told Eric, I usually have a lot of fun painting. In fact, I used plastic wax paper. I think I even used some mask. I used everything I possibly had when I painted this one, plus negative space painting around things, and then positive space. But you can see the color. And the other thing I love to use India ink. And I just think that when I paint, I use a lot of the India ink because by the time I smush things around and splat things here and move things around, I can't find my pencil lines anymore. And why not have that nice, rich India ink just to tell me where I'm going? And so the flowers themselves, that was a lot of wax paper, plastic wrap with paint. I use the Dr. P.H. Martin's liquid watercolors, and I just smash it right on the wax paper, throw it on and squish it in. And that's kind of how I paint a lot of times. And it's so much fun because I don't know how it's going to turn out. Yes, you can plan a certain thing, but I always say that the art gods are in control. And sometimes you have a painting and sometimes you have a lesson. So this was a painting and I really, really enjoyed it.
I'm such a fan of your line work and getting to do so throughout this process. Not only was Janet helping us jury the show and giving us work to curate from, she's also teaching us small miniature workshops using the various weapons in her arsenal, including wax paper and saran wrap, masking. And what ended up being my personal favorite, and is particularly germane to this work, was bamboo, what are they called? Candy
No,
apple sticks?
yeah, caramel apple skewer.
Caramel apple sticks,
Yeah,
like a sharp
yeah.
wooden stick,
Oh,
along with India ink. And
yeah.
it gives you a really organic and varied line. And it allows you to just highlight, and like once the painting is down, you can go back in and create like tremendous high contrast points throughout the work. And I love that graphical look. I'm such a sucker for it. And I just think in this piece in particular, the fuchsia colors and the way that they pop and the way that those flowers all come forward, it's like a fantastic print. I love it.
Thanks, Eric. It just went together. This is the golden snow. Thank you.
This one also featured in the show. Opposite, right? This was a really fantastic decision made by the young curators, having to choose which, in this long, narrow room, you have to choose which works are going to get the long eye line. And those, per my suggestion, I said, if you're going to, the works with the longest eyeline are typically the largest works because they're the ones that you want to back up from. So they're the ones that are going to have to occupy either end of the long hallway. And the Mother Cabrini Shrine flowers were on one end, what we were just talking about, and this is the work that sits parallel on your right as you enter the show. Tell us about this work, Janet. This one also really striking in real life, and the line work is here. It's more constrained in this work, which actually almost makes it even more fascinating.
Yes, I I always go and see the cap rocks that are in golden, and one of my favorite places to go is Safeway. And you know, if you look at Safeway and you look over Safeway, this is the view you're going to get. And I did this painting twice. The first one, when I painted it, I used a lot of wax paper and a lot of paint and masking. And this was before we had that wonderful snowstorm in March. This snow is after, this painting is after that beautiful snow. And what I was trying to portray in this painting was the way the clouds were. It was almost like a rainbow, that there was rain and moisture in the air. And I wanted to have almost a rainbow effect. And yet I guess that would be the caramel part, but the salted part would be the cap rocks and how the rocks make these wonderful lines that water has eroded them for years and years and years. And I wanted them to almost look stained glass. And that's why I used the India ink in there. And yet I wanted to create these little tiny areas of color as if they were catching the light from the sky. So kind of like just having a little bit of the light hit it, and that was the salt part of it. And then the caramel part is the beautiful clouds that have all this color and yet have a little bit of a rainbow coming through them.
Now, we're not purposefully giving you these lower resolution images so that you'll come see the show in real life and really appreciate them. That's just a fringe benefit of our setup. So I hope that you come see these works in real life. Foothills Art Center does not charge admission currently, so come see it. It's free, and it's really is a spectacular installation. Janet, what do you think? You want to talk about one more, or should we just take some questions? Do we have some questions on from the chat? Anybody watching have any questions for Janet? If you're an artist in the show, we'd love to hear from you too.
Yes. Oh, you know what? We should talk a little bit about Italy, because
Oh, yes.
let's talk Italy. Okay, this was Raphael's place. Now, Janet, there's another Janet in there. We went to Raphael's place, and I painted this mainly on location with a credit card and no brush, and just had a whole bunch of colors and shapes, and I just whipped this thing kind of here and there and getting the lines in. And then I came back in and did some India ink while I was there, so I knew where it was going to be, and finished it up when I came home. But yeah, it's really a fun way to paint. That was my credit card era. I'm into wax paper right now. I don't know what I'm going to be in next, but that was mainly India ink and credit card. And you just take the paint, dip it in there, and you just use the credit card. That's how I got all those cool lines that are just really nice. I didn't have to use a brush. I just used this credit card. That was great. And I did use a little bit of a brush on some of the trees, and they had like lavender and lilacs all over the place. It was just really a gorgeous place. And through the other one is Pescalo, and through Foothills, we went as a group and painted on all these wonderful areas in Italy. And here we are in Pescalo, and there's these boats, and the mountains just come from out of the sea. And I did this one mainly with a credit card also. I just took a lot of paint on the card and ripped it down on the paper, and then carved out with some negative space painting the town that's there. And then I used a lot of mask, and boy, credit cards are great. You just kind of zip around, use the mask, and then paint around all this. But oh, we had such a great time painting in Italy. It's just so much water and so much green and great camaraderie between everyone. So that was just a fun group of people. And here we are, Foothills, talking about our little box. We expanded all the way to Italy, and it was wonderful.
Janet, may I ask you how you got those sharp negative sections in the water, those white horizontal lines that are parallel with one another? It kind of makes the reflection of the boat.
Yes.
How did you get those so clean? It looks like white paint marker or something.
It is on that particular one. I used a plastic card. I dipped it in masking fluid, and I put that in the very beginning.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I just carved in and out when I removed the mask, but it's mainly the white of the paper coming through.
Nicola Jesse, she says, so the sky came first, and then you added detail of the villages?
Yes.
To confirm? Yeah.
Yes. As a matter of fact, when I first painted this and I was painting it, my first layer of color was the yellows, oranges, and the magentas that you see in the village. And then I started adding the darks. And I don't know why I stopped where I did. And all of a sudden I looked and I said, I have to have the village in there. I was going to take the whole village out. But then, yeah, it just sort of happened. I had a lot of hard edges, and it looked like those cypress trees, and it looked like the the tops of the buildings, some of the churches, and there you go. But I did use India ink in it for the mask because I wanted to have that stark contrast to all the softness that was going on. So I wanted to have the mask in India ink and then the white of the paper. And I thought that was a nice contrast.
This is one of the few portrait orientation works you have in the show, if I remember correctly. This one and the flowers that we looked at earlier. I think this one really uses the tall, narrow aspect ratio well. I just love the height, the verticality. I think really adds something to it that is not like less than traditional for a landscape of its type.
Yes. Well, you have so much to fit in there.
Yeah. And but you don't waste it. You don't waste the space, right? Where like you could easily imagine this work in the other, in like a panoramic, right? You could have another boat or two and really, really spread out the water and then focus in a lot more on the town. But instead you have this tremendous verticality that lends itself nicely to the mast. I don't know about sailing. I think that's the mast of the boat. And then straight up the hillside. And then you have the long draw of the water coming in towards the viewer with those lines that I was talking about, that reflection. I think that's well done.
Thank you. It's nice. It's always nice to hear Eric talk about your paintings because he has a totally different idea of a painting than you as an artist has. And for those of you that had some of your paintings talked about by either young curators or Eric, it is a wealth of knowledge to have these people talk about your painting and what they see from it. So thank you guys.
Oh, it's my pleasure. That's a nice segue into, I don't like to call it a service, but we do offer conversations with myself to any member of the Art Center. You just email me and I'm always happy to sit down for a half hour or an hour. There's some people in chat who I've definitely done this with. You can bring in a few of your works. We can take some time up in the classroom and just talk about your paintings, talk about the things you're doing going forward, things you want to experiment with or work that might not quite be done. I'm always happy to do that. It's like one of my most favorite aspects of my job. And it makes me better. Just getting the opportunity to talk to people about their work makes me better at analyzing artwork and learning the artist's perspective, because it's just getting more looks and more perspectives is always really important. And Morris says to take a class with Janet or another FAC teacher, which is also a tremendous idea. And you can always check our website for those opportunities. You can also check our websites for opportunity as an artist, for freelance opportunities, be it shows or calls. As we mentioned before, Golden is very hot on public art right now. And there's an enormous mural opportunity at the corner of 19th.
19th?
Yeah, 19th and Washington. Wrapping around this retaining wall. It's gigantic. It's got a budget of $15,000. So if you've got mural painting experience, it's a really, really big opportunity. So and there's obviously no cost to entry. You just can check that out on the opportunity section of our website. I'd like to give the last few minutes here if anybody else has any questions in the chat. We're going to wrap up at about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we have here just so many thanks to my colleagues at Foothills Art Center, to Janet. You're like a colleague. I've worked closely with you for 5 years, and you just bring so much joy and enthusiasm and inspiration to the art world. So we are just so thrilled to have you. And thank you to the 56 people on this opening. Please come see it in person starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. And yeah, we're here for you all. It's great to see you all. Just thank you guys so much. Yeah, thank you, Janet. Thank you.
Yeah, this show really was first and foremost spawned, seeded by the idea of doing a show to support you and to honor your contributions to Foothills. And it was just the perfect opportunity to pilot this Young Curators program, to really get to see you operate, like I was saying, with all those different hats on, and like you really are fantastically agile in that respect. So, and we do plan to continue to bring this Young Curators program forward into shows on an annual basis. So if anybody has any kids or grandkids of this age who they would like to be a part of it, you can feel free to reach them out. I think we're going to be drumming up some sort of application for this process. Katan and Kayla, you were fortunate enough to just kind of be in the right place at the right time. But I think in the future, it might be a little bit more contested of an opportunity.
They put in a lot of hours kind of last minute. So thank you guys. It was really inspiring to have you on the team. And I appreciate what you said, Eric and I, Janet, all of us at Foothills. We want to be inclusive of artists of any level, of any interest. So Kutad and Kayla and bye Jojo. It was great to get to know you guys throughout this process too. So thanks for being a part of Foothills. Thanks everyone for being a part of Foothills.
And thank you guys for thinking of me for 20 years. And you know, the young curators, you also have to look at their artwork, but also anything that's written on the walls, they put together. They did.
And an article for Look. If you remember, our magazine will have an article written by them as well, and the logo for the show, and the logo that we'll use going forward for young curators. We really made them stretch their legs as well.
Yes, they had a lot of behind the scenes work that they did. And I just wanted to make sure that there's so much that goes into a show. And when you have to stop and take and dissect every single component of the show by either Eric, Maura, me, or the young curators, you know, it is a learning process. And, you know, that's what Foothills is about, is learning something new.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I just could not thank you guys enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned so much from this program, and you guys are really helpful and supportive all the time. So thank you guys.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And I think with that, we'll call it a night. And I hope to see you all in real life sometime very soon.
Yes, go see the show. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janet. Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.